Ash, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
I understand. Bhagavad knows what ought to be done, ought not to be done, what is to be feared, and what is not to be feared, what is binding, what is liberating, understanding established. Oh, goodness. So it says the things that ought to be done are perverty. And perverty. That means for ordinary poverty and liberty. Poverty means also enjoyment. One wants to get fruitive results. And liberty means he's not interested in. He's not interested in trying to increase his pleasure through the material activities. He's trying to give up material activities, reduce his level of sense enjoyment. In fact, the example, Sankhya Purvaka Nama Gana Tipi Alabha to 6 Goswamis, they reduce their eating, sleeping, mating, and all to nil practically, because they were so interested in serving Krishna and getting out of the material world. They didn't have desire to go up to even the heavenly planets. But that's in the mode of goodness to go up to the heavenly planets. But better than that is Shuddha Sattva, go to the spiritual world.
Jai. Does anybody have any comments? Yeah, it's a microphone. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I've heard it said that yes, I'm not sure how to formulate this question. I'm wondering that who is transcended the material modes of nature, is he purely situated in goodness, or is he's somewhere else? He's somewhere in a different standing.
Yeah, so there's Sattva Gun, which is more goodness, but then there's Shuddha Sattva, which means pure goodness. This is essentially the transcendental platform. So in material consciousness, there's always a mixture to some degree of Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. So it's always a mixture. But when one comes to the spiritual plane, Shuddha Sattva, pure goodness. So the goal is not to be in Sattva Gun entirely. It's helpful so we can be able to remember and worship the Supreme Lord and, study scriptures and, follow the scriptures. But it's a platform to reach the transcendental platform. But as we were talking briefly yesterday, devotees can do activities which seemingly is in the mode of passion or other activities, but because they're doing it for Krishna, like Arjuna, he's fighting a war on the battlefield. So, by like the strict guidelines, he's not acting by sattva gun. You can't fight a war in that kind of state. So he's acting on behalf of Krishna. And Krishna, he says, Sagunan samatiti aitan brahma bhuya kalpate. What is it? No, Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitayan brahma bhuya kalpate. And when one's acting in devotional service, one overcomes the gunas, comes to the transcendental state. So It's about a internal consciousness of, what we're doing, why we're doing it. So a big theme of the Bhagavad Gita, what Krishna is saying is, perform your duty, but don't be attached to the results. So it's a little bit of your question and some more. Is that sufficient? Okay, does anybody have anything else? Let's read the next text. And that understanding which cannot distinguish between the religious way of life and the irreligious, between action that should be done and action that should not be done, that imperfect understanding, O son of Pritha, is in the mode of passion. Report. Intelligence in the mode of passion is always working reversely. It accepts religions which are not actually religions and rejects actual religion. All views and activities are misguided. Men of passionate intelligence understand a great soul to be a common man and accept a common man as a great soul. They think truth to be untruth and accept untruth as truth. In all activities, they simply take the wrong path. Therefore, their intelligence is in the mode of passion. And my first thought is, if that's the mode of passion, then what about the mode of ignorance? So let's read that real quick. That understanding which considers irreligion to be religion and religion to be irreligion under the spell of illusion and darkness and strives always in the wrong direction, while Partha is in the mode of ignorance. Microphone.
So this verse is a little subtle because elsewhere in the Srimad Bhagavatam it says that intelligence is naturally born of the mode of passion, and Lord Brahma is intelligence personified actually, and he's considered in the mode of passion. So it's saying here that intelligence in the mode of passion is always working reversely. So a little contradictory, it seemed, or a little confusing. Because we just heard also that intelligence in the mode of ignorance was always doing the wrong, having the wrong understanding. So should we understand it be in the mode of passion or in the mode of ignorance, or just a mixture of two?
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to look at, to take a closer look, because you're pointing out a good point. They seem very similar, but from my understanding, so Krishna says that the mode of passion is born of unlimited desires. So there's always desires to enjoy, and then Prabhupada says here they accept the common man to be a great man and a great soul to be a common man. But he also says they think truth to be untruth and accept untruth as truth, and that's said in Tamagun. Well, I guess what we can take away is that in Sattvagun, one is acting according to the scriptures, and in the lower modes of nature, they're not acting by the scriptures, they're acting by their own whims and, lusty desires. And obviously, there's a degree of passion and ignorance where passion is driven more by some selfish, fruitive desire, some gain, some kind of desire to enjoy. Whereas ignorance, Krishna, what does he say? He says that ignorance, I don't know if we read it here or earlier, but he says, oh, yeah, it's text. Text 39, and that happiness which is blind to self-realization, which is delusion from beginning to end, and which rises from sleep, laziness, and illusion is said to be of the nature of ignorance. So from beginning to end, which arises, it's delusion from beginning to end. So at least in the mode of passion, somebody has like a promising idea, and then Prabhupada said they accept religions which are not actually religions and reject actual religions. So I'm just thinking of people promoting these grand ideas to like all these political causes and cases and things to try to help the world. But as they're promoting it as all in all, that's going to fix everything. But they're putting down religion. Whereas in the mode of ignorance, people are just totally gone, just not even trying to help, and it's delusion all the way through. So it's a nice point. All right, let's read text 33. O son of Pritha, that determination which is unbreakable, which is sustained with steadfastness by yoga practice, and thus controls the mind, life, and the acts of the senses, is in the mode of goodness. Report, yoga is a means to understand the Supreme Soul, one who is steadily fixed in the Supreme Soul with determination, concentrating one's mind, life, and sensual activities on the Supreme, engages in Krishna consciousness. That sort of determination is in the mode of goodness. The word avyabhicharya is very significant. It refers to persons who are engaged in Krishna consciousness and are never deviated by any other activity. This is nice. Determination which is unbreakable. Denise says, controls the mind, life, the act of the senses. So this is a Goswami, somebody who's picked up in, devotional service is everything. They understand the conclusion of the scriptures, and they don't let their mind become deviated from that goal. What does Krishna say earlier in the Bhagavad Gita? Vyavyasatmika buddhir. Bhagushaka yanantascha. Yes, Buddhayo Yavasayanam. Meaning the one who takes up this path and understands their knowledge is one-pointed, fixed. And people who are not branched, always distracted by this thing and that thing and this thing. So the devotee looks beyond all these temporary things and sees, okay, I have a goal and I'm trying to do everything to control my mind and senses and act according to that goal. And Krishna is saying, this is in the mode of goodness, this determination. If we have that resolute purpose, to, okay, this is what I'm doing, let me do it. Whereas the mode of passion, and that determination by which one holds fast the fruit of results in religion, economic development, and sense gratification is of the nature of passion, O Arjuna. Report. Any person who is always desirous of fruit of results in religious or economic activities, whose only desire is sense gratification, and whose mind, life, and senses are thus engaged, is in the mode of passion.
So this is nice. The last text that we were on, it's interesting because I think about this a lot, how we can become steady in our sadhana, in our service, and all the things in Krishna consciousness. So I was wondering, I think it said that his determination is unshakable. So what text are we on? Do you know?
You're talking about text 33.
33, okay. Yeah, so unshakable. So this is, so like, what is the best way to become unshakable in our conviction?
Well, the first thing that comes to my mind is Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma. The lotus feet of our spiritual master is the only way in which we can attain pure devotional service. So the lotus feet of the Guru is our shelter. So we have to take shelter of Krishna, which means taking shelter of the Guru. And we have to apply ourselves to the process and try. Krishna, he reciprocates. It's just like if you have a friend or any other person, a relationship, it doesn't form overnight. There's always reciprocation, a give and a take, and things grow and build. So Krishna, he knows what's in our heart. He knows what we want, or if we're trying to cheat or whatever it may be. So we have to continue to persevere to build that relationship. And how do we build the relationship? We follow the instructions of the spiritual master according to the scriptures, which Krishna is saying that's the mode of goodness. So then that will purify us and bring us more and more realization. As we develop more realization and we get a higher taste, naturally then nothing else interests us, because we're convinced, okay, what I'm doing is good. I don't need anything else. So take shelter of Guru, study the scriptures, and continue to connect to Krishna that way, through service, through chanting. But we have to guard against aparads, Nam aparad, Seva aparad, and Vaishnav aparad. So we have to be very careful in our dealings, because we're doing the same activities every single day. We're hanging out with the same people every day. It's easy to take things for granted. And then when we take things for granted, what's the saying? Familiarity breeds contempt. So then there's a tendency to become offensive. For example, you might start like worshiping the deities. You're dressing the deities, and you're trying so hard to chant the certain mantras, and you're so careful to be clean. But after you do it for a month, 2 months, oh yeah, I'm doing this. I know how to do it, and you just kind of fly through things, and you have to be very careful that you're doing things to a proper standard. Otherwise, you take it lightly. So it's the same thing dealing with devotees and chanting the holy names. But beyond that, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he describes the process from Shraddha to Prem. Just talking about that yesterday of, coming to Nishta. Nishta means fixed. So, once we reach Nishta and beyond, that's when we have determination that's unbreakable, because we're fixed that this is it. So, as I was talking about yesterday, it's like a climb uphill up a mountain. And Nishta's at the top. You're trying to get to the other side of the mountain. So once you get to the top, Nishta, then you start coming down. Then you naturally have attraction to Krishna. You're more so being pulled to Krishna rather than running away from the material energy. Where early on, we're dealing with the onslaughts of our mind, lust and desire. We're not content, we're not happy, anger, enviousness. So we're always feeling problems. So we're running to Krishna, 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 help, 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 help. But once you become, fixed on that platform, then I don't want to say it becomes easy. Relatively speaking, yeah, it becomes easy because you're not so affected by all your anarthas. But by committing the aparadhas, then the anarthas, it's like watering the weeds. So we have to do devotional service, take shelter of Guru, and very carefully guard against the aparadhas.
So then why does purification in the stage of anartha nivritti seem like, why is it so painful? Why does it seem like I've had instances where I've thought that like I'm not making progress in material or spiritual life. So like what my thought process is like, what's the point, So I'm wondering like why is it so, having these attachments like ripped away from us, why is it so painful?
Did you ever see any bullies when you were in school? Were you a bully? I hope not. I hope not. Bullies go around, they bully people, they push people around, they joke and they make fun, of them. But if somebody bigger and stronger comes and does it to them, how does it feel? They don't like it. So it's like a mirror, they're getting a taste of their own medicine. So we've been acting so long, trying to hide, trying to bully and control the material nature. But then as we take up anartha nivritti, then all of a sudden we're seeing all the things that are there and we're forced to look at it and remove it. So it's very difficult. And then from a deeper level, we're actually attached to it because we're attached to this conception of thinking that this is us, this is our world. I'm great. This person can't tell me what to do. I know what's best. I've been doing this activity, for so long. I know how to do it. I could teach him, but he's over here telling me, giving me instructions. All this pride. Pride is counterintuitive towards advancing in Krishna consciousness. But whatever we're feeling, we can direct it into Krishna consciousness. We can be very much prideful of Prabhupada, of our guru, of the parampara, of the Bhagavad Gita. But to take pride in oneself or think we're great. We can look at all the great acharyas and they display such a humble mood. And they're not just writing in a book, like this will sound good or, this is the way to think. Like they really feel that way. Why do they feel that way? Because they realize how great Krishna is. So when you realize how great Krishna is, you begin to see how small you actually are. And that challenges the false ego. We don't like that. The false ego doesn't like that. For me to see how unimportant I am. So it's bitter. But what does Krishna say? He says in text 36, O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness which the conditioned soul enjoys and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Would you like to come to the end of all distress? Me too. He says, that which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. So as we're cultivating this lifestyle that's based on a sattvic lifestyle, where I gave the example that I heard from my Guru Maharaj, he says, the goal is not to come to the mode of goodness, like we were just talking. Like you've ever been to a circus? You see these people walking on the high wire. They got this little like balance beam and they're walking and doo, 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 doo. And then there's a net underneath. So he describes that high wire. This is Krishna consciousness. This is the transcendental platform. We're trying to walk the fine line, and find the balance and stay there. But occasionally we may fall. So they have the net there. The net represents the mode of goodness. So if we fall, we don't fall too far. So it's best to cultivate as many sattvic habits as possible so that if we fall from the transcendental state, then, we don't fall so far and we can easily pick ourselves back up. Whereas if my nature is totally tamagun and I'm just trying to jump straight to, chanting Hare Krishna all day long, and then one day I don't have a taste, all of a sudden all these flood of desires come back to me and I think, I tried doing this, let me go do this now, whatever tickles your fancy, the things that we used to do or be interested by. Typically these things come flooding right back into our consciousness. We may practice Krishna consciousness for, a few years or longer, and we think we're kind of over certain things, and then we could just hit a road bump and all of a sudden all these past samskaras of all these different desires and thoughts can flood our consciousness. Or feelings of anger and, depression and all these different things. So, tastes like bitter in the beginning, but tastes like nectar in the end. Do you believe this? You're convinced about it?
Not now. I was when I was younger, but not anymore.
Why?
Why do I not feel like this anymore?
Why do you not feel convinced about this, that it's tough in the beginning, but in the end it will end well?
Because there was, okay, this is a huge like hang up that I have. So please don't judge me about it. But I remember one time I was I was so I don't know how to say this because I don't know if kids are watching this, but I was doing illicit activities and I was engaging in some form of illicit sex, and I came across an ad on one of the websites that I was on.
We don't have to go so much into personal details,
Okay.
but if you can kind of
Basically, what happened was I think that I was attracted. There was this thing where it said that get whatever you want, get whatever woman you want, whatever car you want, all this stuff just manifests just by doing this one thing. So I'm caught up on this thing where like doing this one secret thing is the answer to all my problems.
it will fulfill all your desires.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
that's why
we heard this earlier. Actually, what Mogadari was saying in his class. He's talking about Guru Puja. I don't know the whole translations like he was breaking it down so nicely, but was it Jay Prasade Pure Sarva Asha? You fill all desires by your mercy. All desires are filled. I don't know if that's the right line. That's what he quoted. But anyways, point is, you saw this from this guy, but he's promoting it in total mode of passion and ignorance. Whereas our philosophy is promoting the same thing. Narottam Das Thakur is singing this to his Guru Maharaj, saying, by your mercy, it fulfills all the desires, all the things I'm looking for. But the thing is, like, say if there's a person on the street, like a drunk person, and they're walking the street, and we invite them in, and we want to give them like really nice prasad. Generally, they're going to come in and be like, oh, what is this? Where's the meat? Where's the chicken? Where's the beef? Because he doesn't cultivate a higher taste. So he thinks alcohol and drugs are desirable, and we're trying to give him something better, and he thinks it's bleh. So similarly, when we get the higher taste that Narottam Das Thakur definitely has, he's saying that by worship of the Guru fulfills all desires. But these desires, they're not material desires. What do we desire? When you saw this ad, this guy's promising this thing, do this one thing so you can get all this. Why do we desire any of those things? Think about it. Why do we desire anything? Why do we work for anything? Why do I strength train and become big and play football? Why do I work hard so I can get money? Why do I, hang out with my family?
because I want sense gratification.
You don't want sense gratification per se. You want to be happy. And the only way you know is channeled through sense gratification. So the goal is to be happy. But what's Krishna saying? He's saying right here. He's talking about happiness in the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. So in the mode of goodness, it tastes like poison in the beginning, and the end tastes like nectar. So, you used to play football, you used to work out a lot, right? In the beginning, you go to the gym, it's like horrible, it's tough, or waking up in the morning, going running. I don't want to do this, I want to sleep in. But once you get accustomed to it and doing it, and you get a routine, and you actually see some results, you're like, oh, wow, this is really good. So similar, that's a mundane example because it's not on the transcendental platform, but the same principles there, that we may not like doing everything we're doing here, waking up in the morning, having authorities, associating with the people we're kind of forced to associate with, doing all these things. But as we develop Krishna consciousness and really purify our heart in this process, all of what we're looking for is there because we're looking to be happy. Happiness does not come from anything external. You are Satchidananda. You are not the body. You are not your mind. We think. So many thoughts, and those thoughts that we're processing, we think of that little voice being ourself. That's not us. It's the mind. So we actually don't know who we are. Krishna is giving us the answer of who we are by following his teachings and putting them into practice. Then you start to see how much nonsense the mind is, how obtrusive the false ego is, how inconvenient our situation is. So as you begin to see that, you can detach from that and you become more attached with taking up the process. So then it stops tasting like poison and it begins tasting like nectar. And the more we accept that and just get out of our mind, it's very easy. But when we're attached to the fruits of our results and we're, being afflicted by lust and envy and greed, it's very difficult. But we have to just keep persevering. What's the nectar of instruction say? The first two of the six to, endeavor in devotional service. We need to be enthusiastic and patient. Such a nice combination to be enthusiastic and patient. I'm just thinking of like when I was in India, people don't really wait in line so much. There's like a million people, but nobody waits in line. Everybody just like goes straight to the front. It's really inconvenient if you're from a culture where everybody waits in lines. But anyways, they're all enthusiastic to get to the front of the line, but no patience. So then what happens, if they get checked or, something happens, they become frustrated or they just give up. So we have to be enthusiastic to get the goal, to do what we have to do, but also be patient. Why do we have to be patient? Because the material energy is always going to work against us until we're on that pure platform. Because we're being affected by the modes of material nature, this is actually the hindrance to what we're really trying to cultivate. So therefore it works against us. But if one is truly surrendered to Krishna, then the modes of material energy can work in his favor to help him in his service. And the examples given by Jada Bharat. It's not time to talk all about the Jada Bharat pastime, maybe another time, but it's really nice. So, is that sufficient, or you want to talk about this more? You're sure?
Basically, just what were you saying? You said cultivate the mode of goodness, or was that for my previous question? That was for my previous question. But basically you said like you were talking about the Guru Puja song and how Narottama Das Thakur he has so much love for his guru that he sings this to his spiritual master. So like that, yeah. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, and also Guru is our Diksha Guru, but it's not limited to just our Diksha Guru. So also we can have many Shiksha Gurus, many instructing Gurus, or, our whole Parampara. Who's our Guru? Our Guru is a disciple of his Guru, who's a disciple of his Guru. And, we're connected to the whole Parampara that way. So we can take shelter. But Guru Tattva is there that, we have to take shelter of Guru and humble ourselves and pray. And Raghunath Das Goswami is Manashiksha. He's talking about instructions to his mind to overcome all this nonsense. And he says one must call out to the generals of Bhakti Yoga, basically call out to the acharyas, those who are fixed in Bhakti Yoga. Like call out to them for help. So we need to pray. And, the more that we can understand the life of our acharyas, this is why I asked you that question. Do you really believe that if we keep going, this poison now will taste like nectar in the end? Because we can look at people who've actually have done it. So many of Prabhupada's disciples were like filthy hippies, but they gave it all up and served Prabhupada, and they've been doing so for 50, 60 years. And they're old. A lot of them are very, very old, but they're not unsatisfied or dissatisfied. They're not cranky. Even some of them are very diseased, but they still persevere, trying to be positive and happy in devotional service. And usually it's more than a joy just to spend a little bit of time around them, to hear from them, observe them. So that's the same path that we can take. Whereas a materialist, say the people who are watching this advertisement and they're getting all their dreams and desires, what does it do? At the time of death, you have to leave it all behind. You have to give it up. We're born alone and we die alone. We enter the world with nothing. We have to leave with nothing. It's crazy because we enter with nothing, but then throughout our life, we get so attached to everything and it's hard to give it up. But then we're forced to leave and give it up. So we've gotten ourselves in a sticky situation that's running back many, many lives with our karma and all of our samskaras. So it's impossible to just give it all up. So we have to become attached to Krishna. It's like if a little kid's playing with, a little broken toy car and I am holding a chocolate bar and wave it in front of him, he'll forget about the car real quick and pick up the candy. So if we get that higher taste and become attached to Krishna, then naturally all the problems that we identify with, they'll become insignificant. But it can be hard in the beginning, so we have to continue with enthusiasm, continue with patience. Take shelter of Guru, take shelter of the Vaishnavas. Sadhu Sangha, this is what really binds us together. It's something that should not be overlooked. Mogadari was speaking about this also earlier. It's a very nice class. That Prabhupada makes the comment of Sadhu Sangha, if one's trying to practice devotional service outside the association of devotees, he said it's phantasmagoria. I've heard it hallucination. Mogadari in his class said that Prabhupada said it was phantasmagoria. Essentially hallucination. Like a hallucination. Like a fantasy. Make believe. So we can even be living at the temple, but not even really associate with devotees. You come in, you do your service, you leave, and think about like realistically when we associate, we're in the temple and then we take prasad and then most everybody goes on their own way and does their service here, does this there, does that there. So, the few opportunities that we do have to associate with the devotees, it's very special and we should not take it lightly. And then it's a good time to reveal our mind, to inquire from one another, to talk about points or just, compliment the devotees, help them, be more enthusiastic in service because life is difficult. It's very difficult. We all need encouragement. And if we're not fixed, then, we need more encouragement. But once we become fixed in realizing that the material energy has nothing to offer, that my mind has nothing to offer if it's not trained in Krishna consciousness, when we shift that to just taking shelter of Guru and Shastra and Krishna, then that's all the encouragement we need. But if we're not there, then yeah, it can be tough going. So we should really take shelter of the association of devotees. So, any final comments or thoughts? Yes, Prabhu.
I was kind of just thinking of like
what it would look like for someone to go from the other modes of nature to the transcendental platform. I remember we read in the Nectar of Devotion how like a sequence where Balaram was drinking liquor, he was drinking wine and he was intoxicated. And I was wondering, if one is addicted to alcohol, why can't they offer their alcohol to Lord Balaram and receive transcendental benefit that way?
Prabhupada talks about this. He says that
Who talks about it?
Prabhupada in the teachings of Queen Kunti talks about a drunkard can make spiritual advancement if he sees Krishna. Because he says Krishna says he's the taste of water. So if the drunkard sees that, Krishna is in this glass of wine, it can make spiritual advancement. So, okay, let's go. No, I'm kidding. Yes, I mean, that's there, but Balaram is the Lord, but the Lord can do whatever he wants. So we hear many times of Krishna, Radha, Srimati Radharani, others, chewing betel nut on. But they're the Lord's. They can do whatever they are. Everything's there to serve them. They're not subservient to anything else. We try to do these things and then we become subservient to it. We become dependent upon it. And then it's like oil and water because we're like trying to do one thing. And I mean, I'll give this example where, say you can watch a movie, and the movie may be harmless where there's not like sex or, all these things against the regulative principles. If you are watching a movie or something that has like all these things that are breaking the regulative principles, you're basically condoning breaking the regulative principles. So very subtle, you're breaking the regulative principles. But the point is, you could watch movies or something that's not so bad, but then you're trying to chant japa the next day, and all that's running through your mind is all these things that you just watched. So similarly, if somebody's taking to something the material energy, alcohol, intoxication, it's impossible to have a clear consciousness. Your consciousness will be filled with these desires for these other things, and it becomes hard to juggle. You can juggle it for a while, but sooner or later, it's not compatible. You have to pick one or the other, lower modes or, the tough path of devotional service. Why is it tough? Because we're attached to these things that take us away from that clear consciousness. I mean, like I said, the nature of the soul is to be ananda, blissful. So to do anything externally to get some kind of extra bliss or something is not in line with our natural state of being. So then naturally it creates disharmony and dysfunction. But I mean, from one sense, somebody can do this, yes. The goal is to do that and become purified and see why they don't want to do these things. Because clearly, like I mentioned, we're born in this world alone. We have to leave alone. So you could think of all the things you have to leave behind: a house, a dog, a car. Okay, these are gross things. They're easy to give up. The subtle things are very hard to give up. So anything that we do that creates some kind of pleasure or stimulation, we become attached. And this isn't even philosophy. This is just like neuroscience. Just like, on the phone, people on social media or like YouTube, they build these algorithms. So you start scrolling and you click one thing, and then everything you like to see that you click comes up more and more and more. And it just, so then you can go on there for like 45 minutes will pass by in like 10 minutes because you're just like flipping through these things. Because they know how the brain works and how the brain releases certain chemicals to stimulate you into wanting more. Like technically it releases dopamine. So then dopamine's released when you're like on the search of happiness, not actually when you have happiness. So then they always keep you in this state of searching for happiness, searching for happiness. So similarly, when we're doing anything material, we're doing the same thing. Whereas when we're taking a Krishna consciousness, I could chant my japa beads all day for the rest of my life. and I don't need any external thing, you know. And then all that will happen is I'll get more attached to that. And the more I get attached to that, the more detached I get from the material world. I mean, it's a few thoughts, but you know, it's a important thing to be aware of. Okay, Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai Shri Shri Gaura